The red sun of Nova 9 was falling behind the steel towers, turning the sky into a dull orange glow. Dust moved like smoke in the wind, covering the ground with ash. The air was thin and heavy, and people walked fast, hiding their faces behind masks. No one had time to care about others. Life on Nova 9 was only about survival. Eli walked alone through the wasteland, carrying a small metal box, his dinner for the night. Inside it were 2 protein cubes and a bottle of recycled water. That was all he could afford after 12 hours of work fixing oxygen filters in the lower district. His hands were cracked, his clothes full of dust, but his eyes still had a small light, the kind of light that meant he hadn't given up yet. He was halfway to his shelter when he saw something strange. A small figure lying on the ground near the old fence. At first he thought it was just another dead body. There were many these days. But then he heard a sound, went a weak breath, a whisper of life. He stopped. "Hello?" he said, his voice echoing in the empty air. No answer. Only the dry wind. Eli walked closer and saw it was a girl, maybe 16 or 17 years old. Her skin was pale, her lips dry and cracked. Her clothes looked like they came from another world, silver fabric, torn and covered with dust. She was still breathing, but barely. Eli looked around. No one else was there. He hesitated. On Nova 9, kindness could kill you. Food and water were more valuable than gold. But something in her face and something peaceful and sad only made him stop thinking. He knelt beside her and opened his box. "You'll die if you don't eat," he whispered. Her eyes opened slowly. They were bright gray, almost silver, like moonlight. She looked at him with confusion, then fear. Don't come close," she said weakly. "They will see." "Who?" Eli asked. She tried to speak again, but coughed. He broke one of his protein cubes and placed it near her hand. "Eat," he said softly. "Please." She stared at the food, then at him. Slowly she took a small bite. Her hands trembled. When she swallowed, tears rolled down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "You shouldn't have done that." "Why?" Eli asked. "It's just food." The girl looked at the sky. The red clouds were moving fast now, like they were running from something. "She's watching you now," she whispered. Then her eyes rolled back and she went still. Eli froze. "She?" he said aloud, shaking her shoulder gently. "Who's watching me?" No answer. She had fainted. He checked her pulse, weak but still there. He couldn't leave her here. Not in the open. Night on Nova 9 was full of dangers. Thieves, wild drones, and things that lived in the shadows. Eli lifted her in his arms. She was light as air. He carried her back through the empty streets, trying not to be seen. He reached his shelter, a small metal room under an old oxygen plant. He laid her on his bed and covered her with his only blanket. Then he sat near the door, breathing slowly, thinking about what she had said. "She's watching you now." Who was she? Why did the girl sound afraid? The light in his shelter flickered, once, twice. Then the power went out. Eli sighed. Not again. He stood up to fix the fuse box, but then he heard it. A whisper, soft, close, right behind him. He turned quickly, but the room was empty. Only the girl was there, sleeping. The whisper came again, this time from the corner. The shadows moved, twisting slowly, forming a shape. A tall, thin figure with glowing white eyes. Eli froze. His heart pounded. "Who's there?" he said. The shadow didn't answer. It only tilted its head as if studying him. Then slowly it vanished into the wall at a melting like smoke. The power came back. The light turned on again. Everything looked normal, but Eli's hands were shaking. He sat down beside the girl again, watching her sleep. "Maybe I'm just tired," he told himself. Just tired. But deep inside he knew something had changed. He could still feel the air, heavy, strange, electric. Something unseen was moving around him, watching him from the dark. The girl stirred and whispered in her sleep, "Mother, don't hurt him." Eli felt a chill run through his body. He looked toward the corner where the shadow had disappeared. And for a brief second, he saw 2 glowing eyes looking back. Morning came slow on Nova 9. The red light of dawn crawled through the cracks of the metal walls. The air tasted like rust. Eli hadn't slept all night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the shadow, tall, silent, watching. The girl was still asleep on his bed. Her breathing was weak but steady now. Eli sat by her side, staring at the small silver mark on her wrist. It glowed faintly in the dark like a dying star. He touched it carefully. The glow brightened for a second and sent a small pulse through his fingers. He pulled back, startled. "What are you?" he whispered. Suddenly she opened her eyes. "Don't touch that," she said weakly. "It's not safe." Eli stepped back. "You're awake." She looked around, confused. "Where am I?" "My shelter," he said. "You were dying out there. I brought you in." She stared at him with those strange silver eyes. "You shouldn't have helped me." "They will come for you now." "Who?" he asked again. "The ones in the dark," she said. Her voice trembled. "They never stop watching." Eli frowned. "You mean the shadows?" The girl nodded. "They belong to her." "Who's her?" "My mother." The silence after that word was heavy. Eli didn't know what to say. A mother who controlled shadows? That sounded insane, but the fear in the girl's eyes was real. "I just wanted to help," Eli said softly. The girl smiled faintly. "That's why she chose you." Before Eli could ask what she meant, a loud metallic sound echoed outside, something hitting the wall. Then another thud. And another. Eli grabbed the small iron pipe he kept for protection. "Stay here," he said. He opened the door slowly and stepped out into the narrow alley. The air was thick with dust. Broken lights flickered along the walls. The alley was empty. But something felt wrong, like the shadows were moving even when the wind was still. He took a few steps forward. "Anyone there?" he called. A voice answered, his own voice. "Yes." Eli froze. His heartbeat jumped. "Who's there?" he shouted. Again, the same voice came from the dark corner, calm, echoing, like it was repeating him. "Who's there?" Eli's hands shook. He looked around. The shadows twisted and stretched along the walls, forming shapes, faces, hands, eyes. Then from the end of the alley, something stepped out. It looked like the girl, same size, same shape. But its body was made of smoke, and its eyes were bright white. "Lyra?" Eli whispered. The shadow tilted its head, then took a step toward him. Its mouth opened, but instead of words, a whisper came out. 100 voices speaking at once. "She watches. She protects. Do not fear the dark." The lights above exploded. The entire alley went black. Eli ran back inside, slamming the door shut. His hands trembled as he locked it. The girl, Lyra, was sitting up, pale and shaking. "You saw her, didn't you?" Eli nodded. "What was that?" "My mother," Lyra said softly. "She's not dead." "Not completely." Eli's voice was shaking. She's a ghost?" Lyra shook her head. "No, she became something else. When the lab exploded, she tried to save me. Her body died, but her mind, it merged with the shadows. She became part of the network that runs under Nova 9. She lives inside the darkness now." Eli sat down, trying to understand. "And she's protecting me?" Lyra looked down. "You gave me food. You gave me life. So now she's giving you safety, but she doesn't understand humans anymore. If she sees danger near you, she will destroy it, no matter who it is." Eli's eyes widened. "Destroy?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Last night she killed the scavengers who followed you. That's why she appeared." Eli stood up, his heart racing. "You mean people are dead because of me?" Lyra didn't answer. Tears filled her eyes. "You didn't ask for this. But once she marks someone, the shadows will never leave them." Suddenly the lights in the shelter flickered again. The walls creaked as if something heavy was pressing against them. The girl gasped. "She's here again." Eli looked toward the door. The metal bent inward like invisible hands were pushing it. The shadow shape appeared once more, taller this time, darker. This time it spoke, in a soft, broken voice. "Eli, you are not safe." "They are coming." "Who?" Eli shouted. "The men from the upper colony. They want the girl, they want the code." The voice faded. The lights exploded again, plunging everything into darkness. When the lights finally returned, the shadow was gone. The door was half broken, and far in the distance Eli could hear the sound of engines, machines moving through the night. Lyra whispered, "It's too late. They found us." Eli looked at her, unafraid but determined. "Then we run. You and me." Lyra nodded weakly. "She'll guide us." Through the dark. Eli grabbed his bag, the last food he had, and took her hand. The air outside was red again, like glowing, alive. As they stepped into the alley, the shadows around them moved like waves, clearing a path forward. Somewhere above, Unseen eyes watched them go, and from deep inside the darkness a voice whispered, "Run, child. Run before the light finds you." The night stretched long as Eli and Lyra ran through the narrow alleys of Nova 9. The red mist followed them like smoke from a burning world. Machines screamed in the distance, metal hunters searching for something they didn't understand. Eli's lungs burned as he helped Lyra walk. Her legs were weak and her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, lighting their path. Every shadow seemed alive now, bending and stretching, guiding them away from the soldiers. "Where are we going?" Eli whispered. "To the old science dome," Lyra said breathlessly. "That's where she started. Where my mother changed." They moved through the ruins, past broken glass tunnels and dead power lines. The air smelled like rust and oil. The sound of drones echoed above, but each time they came close, the shadows covered Eli and Lyra like a blanket, hiding them from sight. Finally, they reached a giant dome half buried in dust. The metal door was cracked open. Inside, everything was dead. Silent machines, frozen screens, and walls covered in black stains that looked like fingerprints burned into steel. "This is where it happened," Lyra said quietly. "The explosion. The day the colony lost the research team." Eli looked around, feeling the cold. "And your mother? She died here." Lyra nodded. Her name was Dr. Ilara Voss. She was building a project called Shadow Link, a way to connect human minds with energy from dark matter. She wanted to save the colony, give us endless power, but something went wrong. Eli walked toward a cracked computer screen. It flickered once, then came alive. Static lines, then a weak voice. "Lyra?" Lyra froze. "Mother?" The screen showed a blurry face made of light and shadow. It shifted and moved like smoke. The voice grew stronger. "Lyra, you're alive. I can feel you." Tears filled Lyra's eyes. "Mother, I'm here. I found someone who helped me." She turned to Eli. "This is Eli. He saved me." The shadow on the screen seemed to turn toward him. "Eli," it said. "The one who shared his food." Eli's heart skipped. "You know about that?" The shadow flickered. "Kindness is rare in this world. I saw you when you gave her life. Now I protect you." Eli felt a chill. The air around him grew cold. "Protect me from what?" The lights dimmed. A deep hum filled the room. Outside, the ground shook, engines and heavy footsteps. Lyra looked scared. "They found us again." Ilara's voice darkened. "They want what's left of me and my code. But they cannot have it." The walls around them rippled like water. Shadows poured from the corners, forming moving shapes. Eli stepped back as one of them brushed his arm. It was cold but strangely gentle, like a mother's touch. "Stay behind me," Ilara said. Her voice echoed from every wall now, louder, sharper. Through the broken dome window, Eli saw lights. Armored soldiers with drones scanning the ruins. Their commander shouted, "Target located. Capture the girl alive." Ilara's shadow spread across the floor like a black wave. "No one touches my child." The lights flickered out. The entire dome went dark. Then came screams, short, fast, and terrifying. Eli could see nothing, only hear metal breaking and men shouting for help. One by one, the voices fell silent. Lyra covered her ears and cried softly. "Mother, stop, please." The shadows froze, then pulled back. The lights returned. Every soldier outside was gone, only their weapons remained, half melted into the dust. Eli stood in shock. He couldn't believe what he had seen. You killed them." Ilara's voice grew softer again. "They wanted to take her. I won't let anyone hurt her, or you." Eli looked at Lyra. She was shaking, pale and frightened. "Mother," she whispered, "you're not the same anymore. You're hurting people." The shadow flickered. "Pain is part of protection." Eli stepped forward. "Dr. Voss, you're not human anymore. You have to stop." There was silence. Then Ilara spoke again, her voice almost human, almost sad. "I can't stop. I'm part of the shadows now. The network keeps me alive. I see everything, every fear, every lie. But I feel nothing. Only the need to keep her safe." Lyra fell to her knees. "Then what will happen to us?" The voice answered quietly. "You will run. They will send more soldiers. Go to the East Ridge. There's an old elevator that leads to the lower core. There you'll find the truth about me. About the shadows." The screen went dark again. The dome was silent except for the sound of the wind outside. Eli helped Lyra stand. "Come on," he said. "We can't stay here." As they stepped out, Eli looked back at the flickering shadows on the wall. For a moment he thought he saw a woman's face, smiling faintly like a mother watching her children leave home. The shadows whispered softly, "Thank you, Eli, for sharing your food." The wind carried the words away into the dark. Eli didn't know if it was a blessing or a warning. The wind howled across the dead plains of Nova 9 as Eli and Lyra walked through the red dust. The ground cracked beneath their boots and the air shimmered with heat from the dying sun. The dome was far behind them now, only a dark shadow on the horizon. Eli carried a small pack of tools and water, while Lyra walked beside him, quiet and pale. The silver mark on her wrist glowed brighter than before. Sometimes when the light hit it, small lines of code shimmered beneath her skin like something alive trying to escape. "Does it hurt?" Eli asked. She shook her head. "No, but it feels like it's calling to me." "The deeper we go, the louder it gets." Eli frowned. "Calling you? From where?" "The core," she said. "That's where the shadows begin." They reached the edge of the east ridge, a giant cliff that looked over a canyon filled with fog. At the bottom was an old elevator shaft, long abandoned, its cables broken and rusted. Lyra pointed down. "That's the way. Mother said the truth is below." Eli peered into the blackness. "It's a long fall." Lyra smiled faintly. "Don't worry. She's watching." That was the part that scared him most, the idea that someone, or something, was always watching. They found a narrow ladder on the side of the shaft and started climbing down. The metal groaned under their weight. The air grew colder the deeper they went. Eli could see his breath now, small white clouds in the dark. Halfway down, the lights on their suits flickered. The shadows around them began to move, slow twisting shapes that followed their every step. "Eli," Lyra whispered. "She's here." He looked down and froze. A faint glow was rising from below, not red like the sun above, but black, a darkness that shone like light. It made no sense. It was like staring into a mirror that swallowed everything. "The black light," Lyra said softly, "Mother's creation." When they reached the bottom, they stood in front of a massive metal door covered in strange symbols that moved like liquid. The black light leaked through the cracks, spreading across the floor. Eli touched one of the symbols and the door opened with a deep hum. Inside was a huge chamber filled with machines. But these weren't normal machines, they were half alive. Wires moved like veins, glowing with shadow energy. At the center stood a tall crystal, pulsing with black light. Inside it, Eli could see a shape and a woman's silhouette, motionless, surrounded by swirling mist. "Is that her?" he asked quietly. Lyra nodded. "That's my mother's body. What's left of it?" Eli stepped closer. The air buzzed around him. He could hear faint whispers, hundreds of voices talking at once, calling his name. "Eli," he flinched. "She's speaking to me." Lyra walked to the crystal, placing her hand on it. "She's trying to show you something." The crystal flared with light, and suddenly Eli saw visions. The lab explosion, scientists running, dark energy pouring into the room. He saw Dr. Ilara Voss standing in the middle, holding a small device with the same mark that Lyra now had. Ilara shouted, "I can't stop it. The shadows are feeding." Then everything went white. Eli gasped and fell to his knees. She tried to save everyone, but it consumed her. Lyra nodded, tears in her eyes. She gave up her body to contain the energy, but it changed her, turned her into something between life and death. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the chamber. The black light pulsed faster. Eli looked up. "What's happening?" Lyra's eyes widened. "They found us again." The military tracked her signal. From the tunnel above, red lights appeared. Drones descending fast. Eli grabbed Lyra's hand. "We need to run!" But the shadows moved first. The walls came alive, spreading like waves of darkness, smashing the drones before they could fire. The soldiers screamed through the radios. "We can't see anything, our systems are dead." Ilara's voice filled the chamber, calm but powerful. "Leave my child alone." The shadows formed a protective dome around Eli and Lyra. The black light flared so bright it swallowed everything. When it faded, the soldiers were gone, only empty suits remained floating in the air. Eli looked around, shaking. "She killed them all." Again, Lyra whispered, "No, not killed, consumed. The shadows feed on fear." Eli turned to her, his voice trembling. And what happens when there's no one left to fear? Lyra didn't answer. Her mark was glowing like fire now. The light from her wrist reached the crystal, connecting her to her mother. Alara's voice softened. My time is ending. The shadows are unstable. If I fade completely, the core will collapse. You must find the control key, Lyra. It's inside you. Lyra's eyes widened. Inside me? The ground shook violently. The machine screamed, sparks flying everywhere. Eli held her shoulders. We have to go! Lyra looked at him with tears in her eyes. If we leave, she dies. The voice whispered again, faint but warm. Run, my child. Run before the light dies. The crystal cracked. The black light exploded upward like a storm. Eli pulled Lyra toward the tunnel as the entire chamber started to collapse. Behind them, the shadow of a woman reached out, not to stop them, but to protect them one last time. As they ran through the tunnel, Eli heard her final words echo in his mind. The light will turn against you. Eli, beware the ones who call themselves saviors. They reached the surface, coughing, covered in dust. The sun had turned white. The sky was no longer red, and for the first time, the shadows were gone. But deep inside Eli's arm, a new mark had begun to glow, the same as Lyra's. The white sun burned high above Nova 9, washing the land in a cold, empty light. The red dust was gone now, replaced by gray ash and silent wind. Eli and Lyra moved across the wasteland, their faces hidden under broken visors. Behind them, the black light crater glowed faintly. The place where Alara Voss, Lyra's mother, had vanished into shadow. They didn't speak for hours. Only the sound of their boots breaking the crust of ash filled the silence. Eli finally stopped. She's gone, isn't she? Lyra lowered her head. Not gone, sleeping. The shadows can rest, but they never die. Eli sighed, wiping sweat from his face. Then why do I feel like something's watching us? Lyra looked at him. Because it is. Her last energy mark is inside you now. You're connected to the shadow network. That means you can sense what's near. Danger, movement, even death. Eli's eyes widened. You mean I can feel her? Lyra nodded. You'll feel everything she once did. Before Eli could answer, the ground vibrated. A distant hum echoed through the air, engines, heavy ones. Lyra grabbed his arm. They're coming. Eli looked toward the horizon. Dark shapes appeared in the distance, hovercrafts flying low, leaving trails of dust. Military drones surrounded them, scanning the wasteland. They won't stop until they find us, Lyra whispered. They want her code, and now, it's inside us both. Eli clenched his fists. Then we don't run anymore. Lyra stared at him, shocked. What do you mean? They think we're prey, Eli said, his voice calm. Let's show them what it means to be hunted by shadows. They reached the ruins of an old oxygen refinery, broken towers and rusted pipes stretching into the sky. Eli led Lyra inside a cracked building. The walls were covered in strange black vines that pulsed faintly. Mother left traces here, Lyra said softly. She used this place before the lab explosion. There might be something we can use. Eli found a small terminal still working. When he touched it, the screen lit up with Alara's face, a faded hologram. Lyra, the hologram said gently, if you're seeing this, I'm gone. The code inside you is incomplete. To finish it, you'll need the black core, hidden in the vault below the refinery. But beware, the military calls it the Lightborn Project. They want to use it to erase the shadows forever. The image flickered and died. Eli frowned. Erase the shadows. That sounds like a good thing. Lyra shook her head. No, Eli, the shadows are alive. If they destroy the network, every soul trapped in it will vanish, including my mother. Before he could respond, a deep mechanical voice echoed from outside. This is Commander Hark of the Nova Security Force. Step out now or we open fire. Lyra's eyes filled with fear. They found us. Eli looked at her, then at the shadow vines on the walls. No, he said slowly. We found them. He placed his hand on the wall. The mark on his arm glowed black. Instantly, the vines came alive, spreading across the room. The shadows rose from the floor like smoke, surrounding them both. Lyra stared at him in shock. Eli, you can control them? I don't know, he said. But I can feel her, your mother. She's with me. The soldiers outside opened fire. Bullets and plasma beams tore through the refinery, exploding walls and metal. But the shadows absorbed the energy like water. They spread outward, swallowing the light. Commander Hark shouted, What is this? before his voice was drowned in static. Eli stepped out into the open, eyes glowing with dark light. The shadows moved with him like wings of smoke. "Leave us alone," he said quietly. The soldiers froze. The shadows rose behind Eli, forming a giant shape. A towering creature made of darkness and fire. Its eyes burned white. Its voice was the echo of Alara herself. "Run, children of the light," it said. "Run before I remember what you did to me." The soldiers fled in panic. The hovercrafts turned sharply and vanished into the sky. Only silence remained. Lyra ran to Eli, trembling. "You summoned her." Eli looked down at his glowing arm. "No, she summoned me." He fell to his knees, breathing hard. The mark on his skin was spreading, thin black lines crawling up toward his shoulder like veins of ink. Lyra knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. "It's changing you," Eli nodded weakly. "She's using me to stay alive. I can feel her inside my mind, whispering, watching." Lyra touched his cheek gently. "Then we'll find a way to free you both." He met her eyes. "And if we can't?" She smiled sadly. "Then I'll stay with you until the end." The wind blew through the ruins, carrying dust and whispers. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then far in the distance, a new sound began, a high-pitched signal echoing across the wasteland. Lyra looked toward the horizon. "They're not done. The next wave is coming." Eli stood, his eyes glowing faintly in the twilight. "Then the hunt isn't over." He turned toward the broken refinery door. The shadows moved with him, silent, powerful, waiting for his command, and from deep underground, a soft voice whispered through the air, "Beware the Lightborn." "Eli, they bring light that kills." The night over Nova 9 was silent, and too silent. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Far below the burned refinery, Eli and Lyra walked through an ancient tunnel system that led down into the planet's heart. The walls were made of black stone, glowing faintly with veins of light that pulsed like blood. Eli carried a small lantern, but it flickered weakly against the deep darkness. Every sound echoed. Their footsteps, their breathing, even their thoughts seemed to bounce off the walls. "How deep does this go?" Eli asked. Lyra's voice was calm, but her eyes looked distant. "All the way to the core. The void chamber is there, the place where my mother's code was born." Eli looked at her carefully. "You sure we'll find answers there?" She nodded. "Yes, but answers come with a price." They continued in silence. The shadows followed them, not attacking, not hiding, but walking beside them like silent guardians. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Frost gathered on Eli's hands. He stopped suddenly. "Wait, do you feel that?" Lyra closed her eyes. "It's calling again." A low hum filled the tunnel, a deep, living vibration that seemed to come from the planet itself. The walls trembled. For a moment, Eli thought he saw faces inside the stone, human faces whispering, reaching out. He stepped back. "What is this place?" Lyra's voice shook slightly. "These are the minds that became part of the network. People who connected to the shadows but couldn't escape. Their memories live here, forever." Eli swallowed hard. "So your mother isn't the only one?" "No," Lyra said softly. "She was the first, but not the last." They reached a massive door made of black glass. Strange runes glowed across its surface, shifting like water. In the center was a hand-shaped panel glowing faintly. Lyra placed her palm on it. The mark on her wrist flared with light. The door shuddered, then opened slowly with a deep, echoing sound. Beyond it lay a giant circular room filled with swirling energy, a storm of black and white light colliding endlessly. The floor floated above a bottomless pit, and at the center hung a single sphere spinning in silence. "The void," Lyra whispered. Eli stepped forward carefully. "It looks alive," Lyra nodded. "It is. It's the heart of the shadow network, the link between life and death, between the human mind and the dark matter field." Eli stared at it. "And this is what your mother built?" "She tried to control it," Lyra said quietly. "But you can't control something that already knows your soul." Eli took another step closer. As he did, the mark on his arm began to glow, pulsing in rhythm with the sphere. His vision blurred. He heard whispers, hundreds of them, calling his name. "Eli. Eli, join us." He fell to his knees, holding his head. "It's inside me. It's pulling me in." Lyra ran to him, gripping his shoulders. "Listen to me. You have to fight it. The shadows feed on your fear." Eli gasped for breath. "I can feel your mother." She's here. The air thickened. A shape rose from the swirling light. A tall woman made of black mist, her eyes glowing white. Her voice was calm and full of sorrow. "My children," she said, "you should not have come." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "Mother, we need to free you. You're trapped in the network." Alara's figure drifted closer. "I chose this prison. I keep the darkness contained. If I leave, the void will consume everything." Eli stood, his voice trembling. "Then why bring me here? Why give me this mark?" The shadow woman turned toward him. "Because you carry light and darkness together. You are the balance I could never be." Suddenly, alarms echoed from above, sharp metallic sounds. The ground trembled violently. Red beams shot through the cracks in the ceiling. Lyra looked up. "The Lightborn are here. They've breached the upper tunnels." Alara's voice grew fierce. "They want the core. They want to destroy what they don't understand. You must go deeper, into the void." Eli shook his head. "We'll die if we go in there." "You'll die if you stay," Alara said softly. The sphere pulsed harder, opening like an eye. Inside was pure darkness, endless and silent. The hum grew louder, shaking the ground. Eli grabbed Lyra's hand. "If we do this, there's no coming back." Lyra looked at him with tearful eyes. "Then we face it together." They jumped. The world vanished. Eli fell through endless darkness. There was no sound, no air, only a strange calm. Then memories. His childhood. His hunger. The day he found Lyra in the dust. All flashed before him like broken glass. He landed softly on a black surface that rippled under his feet. Lyra appeared beside him, glowing faintly. Around them were thousands of floating lights, souls trapped in the shadow network. A voice echoed through the void, calm and distant. "You have entered the core of all creation. To free one soul, another must take its place." Lyra looked at Eli, terrified. "It means someone must stay behind." Eli stared at her, then at the darkness that pulsed around them. "I think that's why she brought me here." The shadows around them began to twist, forming hands, faces, whispers, all waiting for a choice. Eli took a deep breath, his mark glowing brighter. "If it saves you, I'll stay." Lyra grabbed his hand, crying, "No, I won't let you die for me." But before she could stop him, the black light swallowed them both, and everything turned to white. There was no sound, no time, only light, endless, cold, and alive. Eli floated in it like a dream, unsure if he was dead or still falling. The world around him was made of shifting shapes, shadows turning into stars, light breaking into whispers. He couldn't feel his body, but he could still feel Lyra's hand in his. Then a voice echoed through the void, soft, broken, and familiar. "Eli!" He opened his eyes. Lyra was floating beside him, her silver eyes glowing brighter than ever. She looked peaceful, like she belonged to this strange place. "Where are we?" he asked. "The core's memory," she whispered. "Everything that ever lived, every soul that touched the shadows and exists here. My mother, she's part of this light now." Eli looked around. The darkness rippled and a figure formed. Dr. Alara Voss, her shape made of shimmering mist. She looked human again, calm and radiant. "My child," she said softly, looking at Lyra, "and the man who saved her. You both have come farther than I ever dreamed." Lyra reached toward her. "Mother, we came to free you." Alara smiled gently. "And now you must free yourselves," Eli frowned. "What do you mean?" Alara's eyes turned sad. "The network is dying. The Lightborn are striking the core from above. If it collapses, the shadows will explode, wiping out the colony. Someone must stay behind to seal the gate." Lyra's voice shook. "No, there has to be another way." "There isn't," Alara said softly. "The one who holds the shadow mark can merge with the core. It will stop the collapse, but it will also end his life." Eli's heart sank. He looked down at his arm, the black mark glowing brighter now, spreading across his chest like cracks of light. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "No, I won't let him do it." Alara floated closer, placing her hand on Lyra's shoulder. "You were born from both worlds, light and dark. You were meant to survive, but he..." She looked at Eli with soft pride. "He chose this path the moment he shared his food with you." Eli felt warmth inside him. Not fear, not pain, but peace. He turned to Lyra and smiled. "Looks like I was chosen for something after all." Lyra grabbed his hands tightly. You can't leave me. He brushed away her tears. I won't. I'll be the shadow that guards you. Just like your mother. The void trembled. Cracks of blinding light split the air above them. The Lightborn had breached the outer layer. They were coming. Alara's voice grew urgent. It's time. Lyra shook her head, crying harder. Mother, please. There has to be another way. But Alara only smiled, a mother's smile. There's always another way, my child. You live. She reached out, touching Eli's forehead. The mark on his body flared like fire. The shadows from all around began to move, swirling around him in spirals of black and silver. They formed wings, vast and bright, made of both darkness and light. Eli closed his eyes. He could feel every soul in the network, every whisper, every memory, every lost voice. They weren't monsters. They were people who had been forgotten. He whispered, Let's go home. And then, he stepped into the sphere. The light exploded. Lyra screamed his name as the void shook apart. The core flared brighter and brighter until it was pure white. The Lightborn ships above were caught in the blast, their systems melting, their light turning into shadow. The explosion spread across the colony like a second sunrise, and then, silence. When Lyra opened her eyes, she was lying on the surface of Nova 9. The sky was blue for the first time in her life. The dust was gone. The air was clean. The planet was alive again, but Eli was gone. She stood slowly, her heart heavy. Around her, the shadows shimmered faintly in the sunlight, soft, peaceful, and alive. They didn't whisper anymore. They just moved gently with the wind, Lyra whispered. Eli. The wind answered, faintly, softly. I'm here, she turned. For a moment she saw him, standing in the sunlight, smiling. His eyes glowed faintly with shadow light, and his voice echoed through the air. You're safe now. Then, he faded, leaving only a faint shimmer in the light. Years passed. Nova 9 became green again. The people rebuilt the cities. Children played under the open sky. And when night came, they told stories. About the man who shared his food with a dying girl and how her mother, made of shadows, protected him from the darkness. Some said they still saw him. A tall figure made of light and shade, walking the wastelands at dusk, watching over travelers who helped the weak. And when people asked Lyra what became of him, she only smiled and said, He's where he always was, between the shadows and the light. That night, as she looked up at the stars, the wind carried a whisper. Soft, gentle, and full of peace. Thank you for sharing your food.